Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the latest in our series of the Tales of Jesus. And this time we're going to be looking at the great story of the rich man and Lazarus, a parable that Jesus tells in Luke chapter 16. So let me begin by telling you the story. It goes like this. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was in torment, he looked up and saw Abraham far away, with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, "Father Abraham, have pity on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire." But Abraham replied, "Son, remember that in your lifetime you received good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been set, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us." He answered, "Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so they will not also come to this place of torment." Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them." "No, Father Abraham," he said, "but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent." He said to him, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." Well, it's a cracking story. You have these 2 characters carefully drawn, and we're going to look in detail at the 2 of them as we go on. The rich man and Lazarus. And this is not just a kind of caricature story where a bad man has it good now but bad later, and the man who suffers now has it good later, as though it's all about pie in the sky and never mind, God will make it all right. There's far more to it than that. We have the idea of something after death. We start with a description, and then we have a dialogue, as it were, in heaven and hell. And the description is very carefully drawn about a beggar man and a rich man, the kind of thing you would find in Jesus' time all the time. But when we move into the heaven and hell part, we have this dialogue. And whilst it speaks very strongly of life after death and punishment and justice and God's judgment, there's also things that are there, as it were, to involve the crowd. The idea of Abraham, the idea of a chasm. The fine details perhaps are not literal, but the basic point is. So let us move on with a little bit to do with this rich man, and something perhaps that is not obvious when you first read the parable. He says this. He calls out and says, "Father Abraham." And this seems a perfectly reasonable thing, if you like. But he could have called to Lazarus. Instead, he calls to Abraham, and he says, "My father Abraham." That is to say, you're part of my tribe, part of my race, part of me. Do me a favour. Living in the Middle East, you find that families and then tribes and then religious groups and political groups in a kind of a hierarchy, and national groups, if you like, gang together at different levels. So you will find in Jordan right now that if a minister is appointed by the king, the whole of his tribe will expect to get favours. They will expect to get contracts, or expect to get promotions, or expect help in general. This is the way the system works, and we can call that corruption if you like, and I think it is. But also the king tries to balance it out by having lots of different people in government. Nonetheless, that is the system. And right now we have in this story the rich man saying to Abraham, I am a Jew, help, you should help me. We have, in short, racism. Right now in this country, race is a very big deal. We have the opposite side of the coin, anti-Semitism, being high in the news and appalling acts of anti-Semitism going around, and some things that are accused of anti-Semitism and aren't. Similarly, you have Islamophobia, far less reported, some of which is just anti-Muslim and some of which isn't. It's a true representation of the facts. And then you of course have Black Lives Matters and the whole thing surrounding that, saying we should be treated equally no matter our skin colour. And this parable speaks into that. Jesus is saying, no, rich man, just because you're a Jew does not mean you get favours. Where is our heart on this? How are we when we look at these different groups, these different minorities, the parts we're in? Do we expect better favour because we're Christians? Do we expect things that are unfair? What is in our hearts? Do we have a grudge, an unfair grudge against Muslims or Jews or people of other colours? I don't know, but this parable challenges us to that it's not right, and God, or in this case Abraham, will not listen to it. Amen.